And one of the things that we try to do here at Island Elevator is for leadership is to try to lower the temperature. We're constantly telling people, lower the temperature, because it's really hard. And these people take a lot of pride in what it is that they do. So if you can kind of make fun of yourself, what that does is that it helps to lower the temperature. And it also shows everybody else that, yes, I'm willing to accept the fact that I am deeply flawed and trying to figure it out all by myself. And you can trust that I'm going to be honest with you because I'm trying to be honest with myself.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CM Mentors podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My host each week's Kyle Grandell. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, what's up, Matt? Glad to be here. Got a question for you.
Oh, shit. Go ahead.
I put you on the spot here. Give me a success story from the week, Matt. Let's get some good vibes going here, given what just happened.
Success story. So you mean what just happened? Yeah. I completely boofed the recording, and we had to jump out of the room and jump back in again. So a success story of the week. Our project site, we got two buildings going on. One is in the punch list. We're almost wrapped up the punch list. And the other building, we had steel show up last week, so we got steel going up. So wrapping up one project, and the other one's coming to life. So
hell yeah.
Yeah. So give me your success.
Nice.
My big one from the week, and it's a minor thing, but we got our trailer going this week, and it's been a struggle because it took us 3 different times to get the delivery arranged. And so, but now we got it all set up. We gave our first safety orientation this morning, and so we are rocking and rolling now, full speed. So
that's awesome, man.
Little wins.
Sometimes you got to stack the little wins to get to the big stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for asking, guys. No, I don't have a success story for this week. But if I did, it would probably revolve around this podcast. You guys are awesome.
Who let this?
Everybody
meet worst Chris. Hosts. You guys are the worst hosts ever. Who invites somebody on their show and then ignores them?
We are the best worst hosts ever. Don't you forget it.
I tried to shake you whenever I closed out of the last room. I hope you wouldn't get the new link and come back, but here we are.
Maybe you want to pick up the phone and start texting your wife or something, you know?
Hold on a second, guys. Hold on. So this week's guest he's a Yankee, and I think y'all got that from the introduction. And he's an elevator guy. You probably got that from the introduction as well, his attitude. But this week's guest is Chris Gutkes. He's the president of Island Elevator up on Long Island. Welcome, Chris. You don't have any successes this week?
This week, I'd have to think about it hard. The only thing I'm stuck on right now is you mispronouncing my last name. It's Gutkes for everybody else. And we're killing it right now. I love it. I love the vibe that's happening.
I've said your name wrong at least 1 million times.
Yeah, so I'm president of Island Elevator. We are a full-scale commercial elevator company. We also service private residentials, and we service the Long Island community exclusively. Many elevator companies in New York, especially in our area, will go into the city, the 5 boroughs, which makes sense. It's the biggest density of elevators in the world. But we were founded on the principle that we wanted to work where we live, and we really like what we got going on out here. So
I got to know you through Jesse Hernandez. He made his crash test dummies in his, before he called it emotional bungee jumping thing he's got going on now. Me and you were crash test dummies with him. We did that for 2 or 3, 4 times, something like that. And I think the last time we did it was because you broke the game and yelled at me. Do you remember that?
Well, that really kind of rolls back to my occasional lack of self-control. The problem is that I was the firstborn in my family. So for the first, I would say 5-6 years of my life, even though my brother was born a couple years after me, the whole world revolved around me. So everything that came out of my mouth was super important, and people were very interested in what I had to say. And unfortunately, I haven't outgrown that. So when I get like a thought inside my head, I just have to I got to tell you about it because it's going to change our life. You know what I mean? So we were supposed to be quiet, and we were supposed to listen to each other, and we were supposed to only ask pertinent questions that were supposed to inspire answers and make you think.
No yes or no.
And then I got Jesse counting down how many minutes are left in our session, and I'm like, and then I just started yelling at Matt. I was like, no, we can't get off like this. We're asking too many roundabout questions.
No, it was good.
I apologize if I blew that up, Jesse, but I blame you for that. Thank you.
No, it was good. It was actually probably the thing I needed at that moment because you have to bring a problem, and the group helps you work through your problem by asking these inspiring and thoughtful questions, right? And you basically told me to pull my head out and just move, and I was like, in less kind words, I'd say probably, but no, I think it's exactly what I needed at that moment. So Gutkes, I've always appreciated you, man.
Yeah, that was your thing was that you were over planning, right? You needed to make sure that every plan was absolutely 100% perfect. And once you kind of like got that out of your way, you built all of this stuff after that conversation. So it's really kind of cool to see you get out of your own way and build out this construction Yeti idea that you've had for a couple of years now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. It's you and Jesse both have kind of been an inspiration to me. So I really credit a lot of back to those conversations we had.
Oh, you got to get a mentor or something. There's no reason why I should be an inspiration to anybody.
I don't know, man. With that being said, since we've completely blown up the entire script, which we don't have one,
Yes.
we usually do Kyle's meme game at the end.
Okay.
Where Kyle describes a meme because everyone listens to this and doesn't watch the video, and so he describes a meme for people that are listening instead of watching. And so I want to, instead of doing it at the end, I want to do it the first here this time. And I've actually got one ready to go. I don't have to fumble around this time. Every other time.
now
And what am I
listeners
doing?
will
I got to
be-
guess what it is?
No. I'm going to show the screen, and Kyle's just going to describe it for everybody who's listening to the podcast.
I describe it, and then all the listeners leave. Basically, is what happens.
Essentially, so we're 10 minutes in, I think, so we're going to wrap this up early.
Yeah.
Especially with the meme I have picked for this week. It's going to be a 6.5 minutes in. It's going to be a game over quick. All right.
So what a dumpster fire. What a train wreck.
That's how we roll. I mean, there's no better way to do it. This is construction, baby.
If we lose
here, let me show you some scenic photos from my vacation in Montana.
So if we lose all our sponsors because of this episode, you're going to be talking to my attorney.
As sponsored by Island Elevator.
That being said, here's the meme.
All right, Here we go. All right, this appears to be a Facebook post from our guest, Chris.
LinkedIn.
And Matt, this is a little bit hard to read, but
Which part can you not read? All of it?
well, the post itself. There we go. So I should read the post first, right? And then we'll talk about the.
Maybe.
All right. Okay. Well, Chris said, "I hope when it's my time, I look as happy as this guy. Sunday is food shopping day, and I was hit with a little marketing inspiration. Game changer? I guess it depends on how you look at it." And then we have what appears to be a bag of depends. Yeah, it says you can depend on Island Elevator, and this is a large, maximum-sized bag as well.
Always
Curious.
I eat a big lunch.
And the looks like Chris is sporting it himself on the cover of this. So bravo!
You got to lead from the front, my friend.
I think this was your first and only modeling attempt, hopefully.
The other ones are privately in password locked folders inside my phone. So no, I won't be sharing those today.
That's for the.
But I would like to listen to Kyle describe some of them.
Hey,
that kind of looks like an elbow, but it's not an elbow.
Man, is it small! Oh, geez. Well, we just lost half the audience, guys. But
there was only half the audience anyway, so we lost the other half. Now at least we can talk.
All right.
All right, so what do you got? What's next, Matt?
So what's next is I want to talk about that. So one thing I've loved, and really I kind of made me start following you, is sort of your quote meme marketing. You've been awesome about it on LinkedIn. Kind of what got you started with your meme marketing, and is it working for you?
So we'll start with let me not bury the headline. The answer is no, it is not working for me. I have obtained 0 customers. Nobody gives a shit except for the people that actually care. And I love it's almost like sitting in a room full of friends watching a baseball game and you're all breaking each other's chops. that's basically what LinkedIn has kind of, manifested itself into. I'm trying to be more professional with my messaging, but I'm only experiencing marginal success at appearing to be an adult. So as far as how I got started, I didn't know when I came up through the business. See, I was born into the business. I'm fourth generation elevator technician, and my great grandfather, father, and I came through on the technical side. So I put my hands on everything. And then my father hired me in 2005. At the time, he had just broken up with his partner. It was me and him in a windowless office in Wyandanch, New York. And we built the company up from there. So I was out in the field. He was selling the stuff. He was managing the company. 2016, he's not feeling well, gives me a call, asks me to bring him to the hospital. He died like 3 hours later. So he was out. And then all of a sudden, somebody's got to take over the company. So now I step in 2016, and I got no freaking idea what I'm doing. So I went ahead, and the first thing was just try to figure out where the money was come from, where it was going, how to like stay alive. There was a lot of scramble for survival. But after we got through that, I was able to go back and realize how thoroughly incompetent I was at the skill sets required in order to run a company. Because we're not just talking about trying to keep the lights on or deliver a service for a customer that they appreciate. It's also about making sure that you're team building, that you're able to properly define the culture, that you're able to set a strategic vision and go after that. None of these things, I had no idea. So I went to this program. Turns out it was free. It was called Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. And it was 1 day a week for a full day in Queens. And that was for about 5 or 6 months. And after I got out of that, I started to understand like the different areas that are required to be proficient at in order to be able to run a business, big or small. And one of those was sales and marketing. So after I got through my financial literacy training, the stuff that I really needed in order to be able to understand how to keep the lights on, that's when I came all the way around to like sales and marketing. And I said, okay, I got to do some sort of marketing. So I started listening to some other people on social media. I'm listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm listening to Chris Do, and others, other thought leaders, Seth Godin on marketing. And a lot of it is driven towards, okay, you got to message appropriately. Who are you talking to? What problems are you solving? And then you got to pick some sort of platform and do it. So up until that point, probably I started posting maybe like 2.5 years ago or something like that. Up until that point, I never had a social media account. I thought, I looked down on it. I was better than that. I mean, a guy that's this cool, his friends know, if he had friends. So I went ahead and I just started posting some stuff out there. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I started following this other guy who's big into the elevators, is Ed Rivera. And Ed Rivera is like the way that some of the guys refer to him is like Jake from State Farm for the elevator industry. So he's just there, and he's, this is how you do this, and blah, 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 that. And we got you. And he's got a very nice Buddha energy to him. So I started following him. Then we DM'd each other, and he started to explain a couple of things. So then I was like, all right, listen, I got a problem with some of my competitors in the industry and how they treat the customers. So I started calling them out, right? And I did it through memes. I'd never made a meme before, but it started to come more naturally to me. It came a little bit too fast, too quickly, because I was putting my competitors' names in there, and these are multinational elevator companies. So they got one of my memes very early on ended up in this company that's owned in Germany. And the only reason why I know that somebody in Germany saw it is that when they sent me the cease and desist letter from the attorney to basically keep our name out of your mouth, and then they were asking for like a bunch of other crazy stuff. They sent a screenshot of my meme on somebody's phone, and all of the writing was in German. I was like, all right, so I guess somebody's looking at what it is that I'm doing. So at that point, I started to hone a little bit and start to like figure out what it is that I felt would be representative of who I am and most comfortable to do it, because the more comfortable that I got doing it, the more likely it is that I would continue to do it. So, and I had dreams of grandeur. I was definitely going to connect with property managers and other people in the industry and all of these things, and everybody was going to realize what a great guy I was, and none of that shit really happened. What did happen was that I did connect to people inside my industry, and that, although that doesn't actually equate into customers, it's equated into something that's just as, if not more valuable. We share insight. We actually put together a elevator professionals roundtable. So we kind of share best practices with elevator companies that are non-competing markets. So there's a guy from Louisiana, Bounds Elevator. There's a guy, Lane, who's from Canada. And we all sit down once a month and we chit chat with each other and say, okay, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? And that all came through LinkedIn. So it wasn't what I have is not what I intended to have, but I've gotten surprisingly good energy from being a part of like the LinkedIn community. I mean, I got to meet you, I got to meet Jesse.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It didn't get you any business, but I've seen a lot of people marketing, and it kind of does too. Right? It's like business development. It's also like in recruiting. With all the people you met within the industry, has it helped your recruiting at all for your company?
Yes. So I would say that we've also had, because again, my messaging is being received mostly by people inside the elevator industry. Apparently I bored Kyle to death. That's why he had to get the hell out of here. He was like, no way, I'll see you next week. But
how much does this guy talk about memes? I'm out.
Yeah, it's like enough with Gutkes or Gutkes or whatever his name is. So yes, we definitely, because I'm industry, I get a lot of people within the industry that really enjoy what it is that we're doing over here at Island Elevator, and our positive representation of our relationships with our customers and with our people. And they're interested in coming over and kind of helping us manifest this vision. So, are you looking for somebody who's a repair supervisor? Are you looking for somebody who's a service technician? Are you looking for this? Are you looking for that? So we've been able to make connections and bring people into the family through LinkedIn specifically.
That's awesome.
Hey, Chris, I got to ask you a question here, because everybody's built a little bit differently. And
oh, Kyle, you're back. What's up, bro?
Yeah, I had to run really quick. Hope you don't mind. We'll talk about that in a minute. I almost lost the awning on my trailer. No, I wanted to ask, everybody's built a little differently, and everybody has different things that come naturally and that they're good at and that they like doing and hate doing. What is the worst thing about running a business to you? Which part do you just absolutely despise doing?
I just really... Me personally, I love creative stuff. So that's creative problem solving is what attracted me to the technical end of it. Creative problem solving, working with people, anything like. So what I'm finding is that a lot of my creativity is able to find a home in sales and marketing, right? How do we message to this person? How do I create this in order for people to get to bring attention to Island Elevator? The stuff that I hate is administrative stuff. So I hate anything that has to do with accounting. Right?
Oh,
where you got to take this number and then you got to put it over there and then everything. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't appeal to the way that my brain processes the environment that I live in. So, but I've met tons of people that just thrive and love the ability to bring that balance sheet down to exact numbers, and there's zero discrepancies and all of that stuff. And it's all about what kind of enriches you. And unfortunately, that kind of data driven, very disciplined, very focused portion of the business is not something that I really love. It's more of like the creative, wild, out of the box. Let's go crazier. Let's think crazier. Let's go further outside of the box. So that's the stuff that I really enjoy.
Makes a lot of sense.
What's your worst part of you running your business, Kyle?
Well, that is really good, except for, honestly, too, though, hiring's tough, man. And you got to take it seriously, because as I have found out, it can fuck you up really bad. So
so what I've done with hiring, and You want to talk about fucking shit up. I have made so many bad hires. It's just burning money, right? Burning money, burning time. And you don't really fully appreciate it until it's already blown up.
Yeah.
But one of the things that helped me, and I don't know if it'll help you, is that in sales, they tell you one of the first things that you have to do when you're running a business is to define who your ideal customer is, right? Who is your ideal customer? What's their personality? How much do they make? Where do they live? What do they like? What do they do? Yada, yada. I found that once you start doing that for your ideal teammate, it makes the hiring and interviewing process a lot easier, because now I know exactly what questions I need to ask you to find out whether or not you have the personality traits that are not only necessary for the job, but also necessary for the culture. Because if somebody comes in and blows up the culture, it's the worst thing in the world. I don't care how talented they are.
Kyle, have you tried putting your face on a Depends package?
I'm going to. Apparently, it
You do
works.
that. It's all about and that's like a little bit of like a leadership style is and you guys both have it. It's self-deprecation,
Yep.
right? And when you're able to do that, especially in front of people that kind of look at you and associate you to your position, right? That's one of the things that I forget all the time, is that when I'm sitting there as president of Island Elevator, I'm not Chris Gutkes, I'm president of Island Elevator. And with that comes a lot of influence and pressure on the person who's receiving the words that are coming out of my mouth. So I've had to, recognize that through a lot of self-awareness so that I can kind of approach people in the correct possible way. But when you're able to make fun of yourself a little bit, not only does it lower the tension, because we're in a high tension industry. Granted, we're not in the emergency room, but we're also not in the blood bank, filling up bags of blood. We're in the middle where we've got to make sure that we are focused. And one of the things that we try to do here at Island Elevator is for leadership is to try to lower the temperature. We're constantly telling people, lower the temperature, because it's really hard. And these people take a lot of pride in what it is that they do. So if you can kind of make fun of yourself, what that does is that it helps to lower the temperature. And it also shows everybody else that, yes, I'm willing to accept the fact that I am deeply flawed and trying to figure it out all by myself. And you can trust that I'm going to be honest with you because I'm trying to be honest with myself.
Well, I gotta steal that saying from you now, Chris, because that's just freaking perfect. I mean, because in our roles, there's just stuff that it eats at you, and it builds and it builds and builds until finally you find yourself blowing up for like no reason over the stupidest little thing because you finally just got pushed over the edge.
For
I
sure.
like that.
And it's I equate it to like professional athletes, right? The best professional athletes, when they're out there doing their thing, it doesn't matter if 40,000 people or 100,000 people are screaming at them and saying the most ridiculous thing. They're able to kind of block it out, find a level of peace. The whole sports psychology industry is based on the principle that we can increase their productivity and their level of happiness and what it is that they do just by helping them to calm the fuck down. So if you can bring down that temperature, now all of a sudden you get out of tunnel vision and you can see things a lot more clearly. It helps us out because our primary job is problem solvers, right? Mm-hmm. You've got a broken elevator, you have a building that needs an elevator, you have an elevator that needs to be modernized. All of these things they're not cookie cutter gingerbread house, follow the instructions, things that you can, that just anybody can pick up a hammer and do. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to get in your way, going to try to trip you up and just ruin your day. So you can either let that frustrate you, or you can stay focused on what the goal is and understand that part of your job is to field these issues, come up with a solution, and then drive through.
I mean, it's happened to me too.
And it's easier to do that if you're not stressed out.
Yeah.
Like when I'm stressed out, my whole I can't even see things onto my periphery.
Yeah.
No, you get that tunnel vision. I'm obviously not working on elevators, but you'll be in a big meeting, right? Like in front of the board, right? You're doing some big presentation to your client, and you're sitting there, and like it was super stressful and stuff. You get the tunnel vision, and then you kind of forget about what you're trying to say. You're trying to do your presentation, but if you can kind of show up loose and relaxed, and maybe making a joke or two just to kind of loosen up, you can kind of it's more fluid too because you're thinking on your feet. They're asking questions and you're not panicking. You can answer them quickly. And your brain just works better. So
I go into every situation assuming that something is going to go wrong that I can't plan for. So if I know that that's going to happen at some point, when it actually does manifest itself, it doesn't ruin my entire day. I'm just, okay, well, I knew this was going to happen somewhere. Let's deal with this problem, and then we can get back to the bigger issues.
And kind of Matt, to your point, I think some of the best presentations and speaking engagements that I've done have been when something has gone wrong right at the very beginning, something, and
Yep.
it threw me off the game, and it's like, well, I look like an idiot now. I might as well just roll with it and be myself. So
Yeah, it's that authenticity. It's just
yeah.
like, you try to videotape a podcast and then you stop after 6 seconds and then you got to reinvite everybody. And then Kyle leaves the middle of the podcast. And, it's just the chaos is what makes it more relatable.
Yeah.
People don't listen to this for the insights. They listen to this just to see the train wreck.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
We've had some good ones.
It's like verbal UFC.
Not yet, but it's getting there. Depends who the guest is.
And that's the
It could
title
be
for
worse.
this one, Matt.
It could be verbal. I just walked in on my parents having sex. So as long as it's not that uncomfortable, then I think that we can get through basically
I
anything.
might have to edit this episode.
Right, Kyle? Remember that pre-interview where you told me that story?
There goes the entire CM Mentors empire we're building.
I have no idea what this man's talking about. I don't know where he came from.
What you got next on your list, Matt?
I don't know. My list is gone.
Your list is gone?
No, so, man, you're really good at getting people off their game. So really the reason I wanted to bring you on before we got into the meme stuff first was everybody hates elevator guys. Elevator guys hate everybody, the world, including other elevator guys, because you're getting cease and desist from Germany.
Yes.
Why can't we all get along? What's going on?
Well, elevator guys, elevator tradespeople, right? Because there's men and women in the trade now at this point.
I say guys is a non-gender specific term, but yes.
Right, I try to do that. You know what the problem is that I was raised a certain way, and I was in a cohort where it was primarily men, and so I've got a really I got vernacular that I got to retrain myself on, because obviously there was like the whole Me Too experience, and women are now putting their feet down and they're saying, hey, listen, we're a critical part of the construction industry. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. And I've been like a little bit insensitive about this. I need to like get my shit straight so that I can be a respectable member of the construction industry. So definitely tradespeople. And it doesn't matter when we get on the site, right? And the reason why you've got elevators. So the elevator trade itself was invented to make a singular trade independently responsible for the installation of the elevator, because there's different trade touches or different trade skill sets that are involved in order to build it. So there's a little bit of the iron workers are there. There's a little bit of ornamental iron workers. There's a little bit of carpenters, plumbers, electricians. So there's almost like 6 different trades. And then in the turn of the century, they were turning around while they were divvying up the responsibilities, and everybody wanted a piece of the elevator shift. They're like, no. This is the one thing that runs all the way through the building. And although it includes everybody else, we have to give it to one trade and make one trade responsible.
And you're talking specifically probably around unions, especially too, when they're really divvying up work responsibilities.
Well, I mean, that's where the origination of this kind of division of responsibility started, was when the unions were able to say, all right, this work is mine, that work is yours. Everybody do their stuff to the best of their ability, and then we won't have any problems. And obviously, everybody's got problems because we're people. But more importantly is that now the elevators, it's kind of like ingrained. It's in our DNA. Like, oh yeah, we've got a little bit of your trade, a little bit of your trade, a little bit of your trade. We're like, we wear the hat, right? We're basically one step below God. We can do everything on this job site, right? That's been kind of the culture that's kind of ingrained to you as you're going far. And then so obviously the rest of the trades can't stand the elevator technicians for that type of attitude. Then we come in to the building, and the biggest problem with the elevator trade is that we can only do our work in the elevator shaft. That's it. There's nowhere else in the building that we can work. So if you're a plumber and you have a problem, and you can't work on the east side of the building, you can reorient and work out a sequence on the west side of the building. Because guess what? You got stuff over there. Matt's been breaking my chops. I got to make sure that I get those bathrooms done on the west side, right? So the elevator trade can only work in the elevator shaft. So if anybody gets in or near the elevator shaft, it creates a safety issue, because it's one thing if a 5A nut falls down a 3-story elevator shaft. It's another thing when it falls down a 23-story elevator shaft, because it's hitting at such a high level of momentum. It can definitely kill you, cripple you, and your career. So we get very protective over our space, very territorial over our space in the job site, because number one, our lives depend on it, and number two, we're protecting our workspace, because that's the only place that we can work. So that can cause, again, territorial disputes between you and some of the other trades. And then all of the territorial disputes get kicked up to management, the GC, the CM, the supervisor, the guy who's working at the lunch truck. Everybody wants to bellyache about the elevator personnel. So as far as I'm concerned, too bad, right? If you were any better, you'd be in the elevator trade yourself. Boom. I just said that.
Well, they went the last of the listeners.
It was 2 electricians.
Kyle was one of the 2.
Oh, gotta go.
Come on. Well, I was going to lead into the next question I was going to ask was, what can we do to get along? But maybe there's not an answer to that.
Nothing.
I think that the answer to that is to realize and respect the fact that we can't go anywhere else, and that if any of your material comes down the elevator shaft, that's going to be a big, huge problem. So if you can just give the elevator trade 6 feet outside of their entrances and try to work with us, then I don't think that there's going to be really a problem, because let's be honest, the elevator trade gets a lot of their kickback because an electrician comes over and they want to do something and we're pushing them away, or they want to do this and we're telling them no. We're not going over to the electrician and asking to do some of their work. We're not going over to the electrician and telling them, oh, get out of our way. We want to, store our stuff here, and we're going to push all of this stuff into your switch gear, and, oh, why are you guys being such prima donnas? So it does come off like we're a little bit of junkyard dogs, but we got to do what we got to do in order to make sure that we make it home to our families at the end of the day.
Makes sense. And make a little bit of money at the end of the day too. Well, I say a little bit. You guys make a bunch of money, so I guess that's not a problem.
Everybody should be making money, but you're, let's be honest. There's enough money out there for everybody to make, as long as you show up every day, trying to do your job to the best of your ability, and every day that you're trying to be better today than you were yesterday, but not as good as I am going to be tomorrow, then there's always going to be money in the skilled trades. And it doesn't matter if the work dries up in New York, it's going to kick off in Philly. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big deal in Florida. Like right now, a big thing is that a lot of the big elevator companies up in New York are moving down to Florida and opening up satellite shops, because Florida is about to pass a elevator regulation called DLM, which is door lock monitoring. And that is like licensed to print money for an elevator company. So they're going to, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As long as you're good at what you do, you'll find the customer, the market, the place that needs those types of skill sets.
You say something?
No.
I thought Kyle did.
You're going to say something, Matt. Come on, give me something, Kyle. Well, what do you think about that?
Well, here's what I was thinking, actually, because I have not done a lot of elevator work, and at this point, honestly, even zero. So my question to you is, help me understand a little bit, probably for the listeners too, more about the elevator trade. And what I'm kind of curious about is, compared to other trades, what does the schooling look like? What do the certifications look like? How does somebody know they're getting a good one?
It really depends on 2 things. Number 1, are you a merit shop or are you a union shop? Mm-hmm. And then number 2, what state are you working in? So number 1, if you're a merit shop or a union shop, The union shops, specifically the biggest nationwide one, is the IUEC, which is the International Union of Elevator Constructors. So they'll go coast to coast. They got everything in the 50 states. Plus, they also have some locals up in Canada. So they have a unified 4-year program. It's like 4.5, and a mechanics exam that comes at the end. That's called the NEEP program. It's the National Elevator Industry Education Program. So everybody that comes in, signs up with the IUEC, has to go through that program if you ever want to be a mechanic at the end of the day. In addition to that, they've got some hands-on testing and training, similar to like science class or shop class, where you actually have to prove that you get the theory in the book learning, but then in addition to the on-the-job training, you register your hours, and then you can prove some certain things in front of them. Okay. When you go to the merit shops are, there's other unions that have elevator divisions. So there's the IBEW in New York that has an EE division. Even though it's all electricians, they have an EE division. I mean, the IBEW it's freaking nuts. I mean, they organized everybody. So it's no surprise that they have an elevator division. In addition to that, I think that the Teamsters have an elevator division, and who knows what's going on West Coast. I don't know about the entire country. So that being said, that's the union elevator side of things. On the merit shop or the open shop side of things, a lot of that is either required or mandated at the state level, the state DOL, or it's left up to the independent elevator contractors. So in some states, like New York State, they just recently passed a law where it doesn't matter if you're merit shop or if you're a union shop, you've got to go through a 4-year book and learning education program and then take a test at the end of it. For the merit shops, it's called the CET program, the Certified Elevator Technician Program. For the union shops, they have their own thing. So, but once you get outside of New York, so there's New York, New Jersey, they have their licensing responsibilities. But once you get outside, some places down south, you don't have to have any education at all. So you could be an electrician yesterday and an elevator technician today. Down in like when you go down south, some of them just require like an electrical license. Like in North Carolina, you just need an electrical license. There's nothing elevator related for you to obtain as far as licensure in order to be able to put your hands on elevator equipment. So, and there's other areas all the way through the U.S. that kind of fall in that same line. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. I didn't know much about the differences and certainly organizations either. So that's great.
And then as far as the elevators in New York State, that's where I'm most proficient. After you get your licensure, after that, you've got to maintain CEU credits in order to maintain your licensing. So I think that if you guys are project managers, you have CEUs. There's teachers that have the CEUs. I'm also a certified elevator inspector, which is a different certification. There's CEUs that are associated with that. And it's really, I like to see heavy regulation. I like to see a requirement for learning, because the way that we look at elevators is that these are pieces of public transportation in your building, right? Mm-hmm. So we look at an elevator the same way that somebody else would look at a train or an automobile or a plane. You want to make sure that you get your maintenance done in a timely fashion and as per the manufacturer's requirements. You want to get your testing and your inspections done. I mean, you wouldn't get on a train if you knew that the brakes hadn't been tested in 10 years. So that's the level of seriousness that we treat our job when it comes to transporting people throughout a building.
Based on some of your LinkedIn content, it seems like a lot of companies don't look at it the same way.
It's really again, that depends on the state regulating authority. So I was just talking to a guy who has an elevator company in Maine. He says that the Maine authorities are very strict. They send out the elevator inspectors on a regular basis. New York City, which is only 50 miles to the west of us, has a stringent authority, oversight authority. But here on Long Island, it's like the freaking Wild West. So there's no authority here that's going around and ensuring that the inspections are being done as per the code book that's adopted by New York State. There's nobody counting how many elevators there are. Like nobody can tell you with any certainty how many elevators, wheelchair lifts, or anything there even is on Long Island, because nobody is counting it. it's a really weird situation to be in. So we always defer to doing things the right way. That's why we kick up to the state code, and then we try to differentiate ourselves from our competition by showing them that, listen, just because there is no oversight does not abdicate a level of responsibility, because this is a piece of public transportation. Would you want your family riding on an airplane that wasn't being maintained as per the manufacturer's specifications? So as we kind of fall into some of these buildings, because we'll get calls, the building owners and the property managers are usually very surprised by the state of the elevator that they're in, because let's be honest, how much do you actually see as the riding public of the elevator? You see the inside of the cabin, the buttons, the lights, and that's about it. But all of the stuff that's going on above, below, and inside the shaft, you have no idea. One of my customers turned to me one day and he said, Chris, I treat the elevator contractor like I treat my dentist. I just open my mouth and I trust that he's doing the right thing. I have no idea what he's doing in there, right? So that's basically what happens until they get to like a certain point where it's a bumpy relationship. The elevator company isn't even really picking up the phone or not responding to some of the things. Then we show up and then we see this freaking disaster, this dumpster fire that's been going on for the last 5, 10, 15 years. And when we're able to illustrate that, and just really all it takes is just a couple of pictures, the property managers and the building owners they're usually pretty upset.
Well, I like what you mentioned there about quality, because I maintain my electrical license still, so I have to do my CEUs every year as well. And every time I do a code update class, we always talk about the theme that the code's a minimum requirement. It doesn't even tell you how to do it the right way and the best way. It just says this is the minimum you have to meet. Anybody that just does it per code, they're not a real tradesman. Anybody that goes above and beyond, that knows the best way to do it, most efficiently, make money, that's a tradesman.
And the other problem is that unless you're in the trade, it is really hard to read that code book, right?
Yeah.
So it would be immensely difficult for me to be able to read your code book and understand which applications apply in this situation but don't apply in that situation. So a lot of what we end up having to do when we're talking to the customers about the fact that their current elevator company is completely, abandoned them as far as being the responsible party for their piece of equipment, is we've got to do a lot of time on education. And can you imagine trying to educate the layperson on certain aspects of the electrical code? It's difficult. So that's where some of the marketing skills that I've learned over the last couple of years, I'm now able to apply them in order to more effectively communicate with the layperson, so that they understand that we're not making these requirements up. They're located here, but this is how you read the code book.
Yeah. Well,
what about you, Matt?
Yeah, Matt, you're up.
I don't read code books. No,
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't hang out really in the electrical or the elevator code books, but I spend a lot of times in like building, like IBC, the International Building Code, and it's the same thing.
Right.
It's like, even if you read it, like two people interpret it completely different, and then you got to go explain that to your client, who is a layman that doesn't really understand it. And a lot of times you'll make a mistake if you don't read all the exceptions, right? It's like a lot of times the code is really in the exception part, and so it just finding people that you trust that knows how to read the document, especially if there's not really, I guess, the code officials for whenever you're, applying for permit and that sort of stuff, they should check all your codes, but a lot of times stuff gets slipped through the cracks. And, especially for like accessibility things, like the accessibility code it's so hard to understand. Like architects will argue over what it means, right? And they do it all day, every day. And I know in Texas, you can and people do it. I did it on our last project. We had a question like this.
And most architects are complete idiots. So I think that should be said also. But they walk around like they know everything about building construction. I had this, and I'm not saying that all architects are idiots. So we had this one go out east on Long Island, and we're installing an elevator, and we're telling him exactly what needs to be done with the doors. No, the doors can't do this. We got to do that. No. And then and you can tell when they're like a real jerk, because as soon as you try to share some of your industry experience, they start reading you their resume. Oh, well, I built this building here, and we did this then and there, and blah, 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 blah. And then the job turned into a mess. I can't even describe it. It was crazy. And then the other problem is that, Kyle is I don't know Kyle from Adam, but he's definitely a trusted source for the electrical code in his jurisdiction, right? Matt is a trusted source for the building code in his jurisdiction, me for the elevators in my jurisdiction. So when you try to, excuse me, when you try to explain to these people what's going on here, they just don't get it. So it makes for a very difficult conversation.
No, it
I know
does.
I got kind of lost there.
No. It
My wife
does.
called me.
But also, Matt said something really good too that I want to highlight, which is the part about how do you read the code? Because in my update classes, what I really enjoy about them, and that sounds really strange to say, but I do enjoy the update classes because the instructors that I go to are always really good, and they talk
Mm-hmm.
about two things, not just the content, what's in the pages, but the intent behind the content.
Yes.
You can't just read it word for word. Those words are written in the way they are in the section for a reason, because all of it
Mm-hmm.
blends together to create the full picture. It's not just about the code says this, it's about why does it say that, and how do you actually interpret that correctly.
And that brings me back. That's where I got kind of lost there. The worst kept secret in the construction industry for everybody, in case they want to know, is that half of the time the inspectors don't know what the hell they're looking at, right? Because they're not going to the elevator CEUs plus the building code CEUs plus the electrical CEUs. So they come in, and when they see something that's a little bit wonky, they either fake it or they call Kyle over and ask him to explain it. So most of what we're doing is teaching the people that are actually inspecting us. So it's really important if you're a general contractor, and if there's anybody I hate more than architects, it's general contractors, to make sure that you have good, reliable subs. And if you have the time, why don't you pay them? That would be awesome. Thank you. You can make the check out to cash. But you know what I'm talking about as far as the inspectors, right, Kyle? Because they can't be at the same level as me, you, and Matt when it comes to actually walking through and verifying if stuff is done.
Chris, I have been in heated discussions with inspectors before that were inspecting my work and didn't want to pass it. And let's just say I hardly ever win those because at the end of the day, they're the AHJ. But I still know
Yes.
that I was right on most of them. Proud to interpret that code.
And then what happens is that you're so mental that you go back to your code book because you're like, oh, dude, this guy is gaslighting me. I know that this is not a code. Then you dig it out. Then you send it to the guy. He's not reading that email. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. He's moved on 10 times. He's inspected 12 other buildings before he even got that stupid email.
Yeah.
So
and then
you got to make your most compelling argument on the job site in order for them to be able to convert and sign off on your work. After that, you got to redo it.
Yeah, I had a project in Austin, and the guy showed up like he worked for the FBI. He had his badge like displayed around his neck like that, and he parked on the job site. It was downtown Austin. There was no parking on the job site, and the GC is yelling at me like, "You got to get him off here!" Well, I've been waiting for him to show up for like 4 days. He never showed up, and so they're yelling at me, and I'm like, we're gonna run. And we ran up to like I forget where it was, like the 13th floor or something like that. Looked at it, and he ran back downstairs, and I was like. He's like, I can leave if you want me to leave. And I was like, man, I've been waiting on you. You've been holding everything up getting here. So being able to manage the inspectors is a skill that any tradesman or any superintendent.
It's like an attorney has to manage the personality of a judge. If you want things to go in your direction, then you've got to make sure that you have a balance of knowledge and deference in order to be able to bring them over to your side. I mean, you want to hear something else on Long Island when they're doing acceptance inspections, when some of the authorities do acceptance inspections, in some of these areas, they don't even send a knowledgeable elevator person to inspect the elevator. It's like the fire marshal or some dude who took a CEU, and he shows up and he doesn't know anything about anything with the elevator. So you're basically just telling him, oh, would you like me to do this, this, and this? Oh, yeah, that's fine. Is there anything else I should know? Yeah. We'll show you this, and then we'll rock on. So it's a little bit, it's not good. It can be done better. It can definitely be better.
So we'll switch the gear for just a second. So Island Elevator, y'all call yourselves a people first company. And I actually reached out to you when I was going through a leadership development program. We were doing some stuff.
Yeah, that turned out to be a really good program.
It really, I learned a lot. I don't know if I'm applying it. I'm trying. But anyway, I reached out to you because I wanted to. This was like right before we started that thing with Jesse, and on a
Yes.
Saturday afternoon, you gave me like your whole afternoon, and I appreciated that. I don't. It wasn't a. I spent a lot of time with you. I don't know if I learned anything, but
No, I guarantee it. And I'll be honest with you, the reason why we were talking all afternoon is because nobody else will talk to me, and I need to talk to people. So, my wife was home. That conversation would have been like 10 minutes long, but I was so happy when Matt was like, "Hey, you want to talk?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right."
so I reached out to you because I was like, what does people first company mean to you? And I guess, how do you embody that? And so you spent all afternoon telling me that story. So we got about 10 minutes. Keep it short.
Fine. I'll give you the 2-minute version. I'll give you the elevator pitch on people first. People first is is based on the principle that we make all decisions inside the organization with the interests of the people first. So if we've got to make a decision between making money and working safely, then guess what? It's the people first. If we got to make a decision for that may negatively impact the customer, or it may negatively impact us, and we can objectively identify that we are responsible for solving this problem, then we will do the right thing. So as long as we're continuing to elevate the value of the people, and as we think of them and use them to inform our decisions, we can confidently and proudly say that we're a people first organization. So there you go. Now I got 9 more minutes. We can talk about weird stuff.
I'm out of weird questions. Go, Kyle.
What's the name of your company, Kyle? And what do you guys stand for? What's your culture?
My company's Dell Management, and just like Matt, we do owner's representative services. So we're construction managers, but see them as agents, so we're not at risk and we're not GCs. The big thing about my company is we work a lot with manufacturers, and
Yeah, but
honestly,
what do you stand for? What do you
well,
stand for? What's the one thing? What is the philosophy that when I engage with your company, I know that it would be anathema to you for you to step on to do that the wrong way, right? Like if when we hire you, when we work with you, what is the culture? What does it say about you before you enter the room? How do we know what you're going to be like before you even walk to the table?
yeah, we bring innovation. Innovation is our big thing because a lot of these, especially the manufacturers we work with, they haven't seen it. They're used to working with the 30-year GCs that they came from the trades, they worked their way up. They're kind of stuck in their old school ways. Well, we're bringing
The
the new school
dinosaurs.
ways. That's right. We're bringing the new school ways. We're showing that the way things are done now in 2023 is the better way to do it.
Are you using any AI to power any of these innovations?
No, we're not to that point yet because we're a few years behind the curve still, but we're light years ahead of the other ones.
Yeah, is there AI in your industry right now?
No, not really. No, I mean that manufacturing, we are way behind.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so in the elevator industry, we have artificial intelligence that's already been at work inside the elevator industry for probably, I would say, maybe the last 5 years or so. A couple of the big multinational elevator companies have deployed this to be able to identify issues on these elevators before the building sees them, or to be predictive in which items may or may not be working or breaking down or coming down to the end of their life.
yeah.
So that's like the tip of the iceberg. That's probably the stuff that I know about. The stuff that I don't know about is what's like, wow, what kind of analytics can we involve in order to be able to identify maybe better fits into our culture, or to be able to read and summarize contracts, or, like that's the stuff that AI gets me like kind of excited about, because they're like huge time savers. And then the stuff that AI doesn't get me excited about is the fact that it's the end of the human race and we're all going to be like eating porridge, in some version of the Matrix, while the robots are hunting us down trying to murder us.
Well, and let me just clarify too. In manufacturing on the owner side, they're very much in tune with AI and technology. On the
Is that
construction
right?
side, that's where things are behind. I mean,
Mm.
even lean construction, which has been around for over 20 years, is like new to the manufacturing construction industry, from what I've been seeing.
It's new to the construction industry. I mean, and in as a whole.
Adoption.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And where do you see it playing a role in your industry, Kyle?
We're already using it, man. We bring success with it because we actually track and we bring visualization and visual management, and our clients can actually see the progress every day for what's going on. Where are we actually at, and what's in our way to get done?
Nice. What about you, Matt? Do you see that being able to help you out at all?
The lean stuff.
You're pretty techy.
I like to. I've gotten down some rabbit holes in construction technology. There's stuff like Disperse. They've got a program where they'll send people out and do 360 imaging of your job site, and they'll come out and take photos like once a week or however often you want them, but usually about once a week duration is pretty good. They'll come out, and they were sending people with cameras out to the job sites and finding out the general contractors and people weren't taking the photos. They said, fine, we'll hire people and just send them out there too because we want you to use our stuff. So they'll send somebody out to your job site. No matter how big it is, they'll walk the whole job site, take photos in every room. It gets sent back to their headquarters, and because they're still training the machine, it's a hybrid model between the AI robots and the people. So they have like architects on staff behind the scenes. So they'll look at the pictures, identify where there's potential conflicts, issues, and those sort of stuff. So it's kind of a quality control aspect. You got the robots looking at it and the people looking at it, and then they also can like update your schedule and stuff. They have like this sort of scrum board, and they'll say where all the work's happening on the job site and kind of be able to build your work plan for you based on the 360 photos. And so stuff like that. There's people and companies out there doing some stuff like that, but the adoption's slow.
Nascent, right?
You keep using big words, man. I'm a construction manager.
Oh, it's early on in the adoption cycle.
Yes, very, very early. You said something.
I just like the fact that some egghead watched a YouTube video and he's like, "Oh, let's just send out a camera and we'll have Matt do it because he's not doing anything all day." I see him. Why don't you just take this and take a bunch of pictures all up and down the 13-story building? There was like 0% chance that was going to happen.
Zero. Usually,
the project manager was going to take one look at that camera and be like,
"Oh, they give it.
Fuck that. This thing's going out in the convex. Next to the lumber."
They give it to the intern, right? Say, intern, go take all these photos, and he does it the first day. The second day, he finds a quiet corner and takes a nap.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, young people. They. You guys know.
There's some good ones coming up though. We had a good intern this summer, and
There better be, because guess what? They're going to be running the world in a couple of years. So I know that everybody, it's like popular to shit on Gen Z. They do kind of make it a little easy sometimes, but in the end, I have to root for them because they are the ones that are going to be protecting our Social Security and cleaning up the environment and providing us a way forward and writing, all of the laws that we're going to need in order to hopefully, survive this whole thing. I mean, who the hell knows?
Well, none of us are going to make it out alive, so that's a fact.
Nope, nobody makes it out of life alive. Thank God for that.
I heard a quote the other day, going back to what you said a minute ago about all the robots hunting us down and killing us. And it was somebody that was, I've been listening to a lot of AI podcasts and YouTube videos and that sort of stuff anyway. And he was like, he's some futuristic guy. And he's like, I see this thing happening one of two ways when it plays out to its basically end. He goes, either the robots make us their pets or we're their food. And either way, they don't want to just hunt us down and kill us. They need us. So you got that going for us.
Listen, AI, if you're out there, I would make an awesome pet. Okay. So eat Matt and Kyle. Definitely keep me around. I will be worth your weight in gold. Trust me.
Oh man, Chris, this is fun, man. Hey, if people want to get in touch with you and make you a meme or find your memes, how can they find you?
If you don't know how to find me, then you weren't meant to find me. Don't worry about it. It's Chris Gutkes, Gutkes, and the S is for suck it.
Oh, shit. I appreciate it.
All right, you want to wrap it up?
Yep, I think we're wrapped.
All right. Take care, gentlemen.
All right, fellas. Thanks, listeners.